communist! Hello, communist! Welcome! Jeffrey Bezos can eat a
All right, everybody, welcome back to my channel. And with me today is Misha Petrov to react to some communist TikToks. Misha, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I watch your stuff sometimes, and you do a really good job of finding some of the craziest people on the Clock app, which I also do.
Yeah, it's not hard to find them.
It's not hard to find them. Do you ever feel like you're slowly losing brain cells when you watch these people? Because that's how I constantly feel.
Yeah, but no more so than when I was in university, hearing the same kind of, glorification of communism and socialism, I would say.
All right, guys. So this first one, it's really quite something. Let's take a look.
Here comes the communist! Hello, communist! Welcome! Jeffrey Bezos can eat a dick! Here comes the communist! Welcome! Let's hope that universal health care covers indigestion once we eat the rich! Woo!
Okay. Lovely singing skills there.
At least this person clearly has a sense of humor.
Right. For sure. No, yeah, I don't know about the pitch and like the actual singing, but sense of humor, yeah.
I don't get why the communists and the anti-capitalists hate Jeff Bezos so much, though. I really don't get it. Because
yeah, specifically Jeff Bezos, you're right.
I don't know about you, but I use Amazon all the time, and you get an insane variety of stuff built and created all across the world, delivered to your doorstep, sometimes on the same day for like extremely affordable prices.
That's
right. I mean, yeah, he's super rich, but it seems like he got super rich by building a service that hundreds of millions of people benefit from and love. Like, don't you think they should have a better villain than Jeff Bezos?
That's right. I mean, I think they just hate him because he's rich, but of course he changed the game for e-commerce. Also, he creates a lot of jobs, right? We got people in the delivery, the representatives, people at the warehouse, the software engineers. So there's that too to think about. But yeah, they do seem to absolutely despise Jeffrey Bezos specifically.
Yeah, and the eat the rich thing is funny to me because when I first heard it, I thought it was just like not meant literally. And obviously they don't mean cannibalism.
Right.
I was like, oh, they just don't like rich people. And then I've seen some of these TikTokers be like, no, when we say eat the rich, we mean kill the rich.
Oh, okay. And cannibalize them or just kill them?
No, they don't mean cannibalize them, but they like I thought it was like metaphorically eat them, like, tax them or punish them.
Oh, that's
or whatever.
What I thought too. Is that not the case? They actually want to kill them?
Some of them mean like they talk about getting out the guillotines. I think they mean executing the rich people,
okay.
Some of them at least.
Right. No, I mean, if we're taking a look at this video, that's not a surprise to me. If that's the mentality here and that's what we're doing. So, yeah, I mean, it's news to me, but I'm not surprised.
All right, let's take a look at the second one of these we've got.
Communism is bad. The people who told you that thought segregation is good. Communism is evil. What is communism? It's dictators and breadlines and gulags and 100 million people died. Where did you hear that? Just read the Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn. His wife even admitted it was pure fiction. Read the Big Black Book of Communism. Even the author of that book admitted it was fiction. There was also a famine. It's true, there was a famine, and yet I don't see how that's any worse than the many more famines that have happened under capitalism. Name one. I'll give you three. The Bengal famine of 1943, the Great Indian Famine of 1876 to 1878, and the Great Irish Famine of 1845 to 1852, all caused by the first imperial capitalist superpower, the British Empire.
Okay, so let's...
There's a lot there.
A lot to unpack.
The first point I want to make, though, is that the people who oppose communism that I've met the most aren't, people who were alive during segregation or whatever.
Right.
It's oftentimes people whose families or them have fled communist countries, who I've heard come and are the most vocal opponents of the system that destroyed their home country. So it's not, I don't really know what he's popping off about, because those people would know, and there's a reason they left that country and came here to America.
Right. I really don't know why he brought up segregation. Like, to me, that's very random, And in the same way that I could say, if you're pro-communism, you're just like Stalin, who was pro-ethnic cleansing, right? Like what he did with Chechens, and he sent them all to Kazakhstan. Many died. So it's just out of nowhere. It doesn't really make sense to bring that up. I don't know.
They like to do this. They like to make everything about everything else. Like, we can't have a
Hmm.
discussion about economics without like invoking random racial
Segregation.
stuff. Right. Yeah.
Right, right.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. I do find it interesting how he attempts to cast doubt on whether bad things really actually happened under communism or not. Obviously, I think the 100 million people who died figure in the 20th century is a rough estimate, and it might not be 100% accurate, but there's no disputing the fact that whether it was Maoist China, whether it was the Soviet Union, or many of these other places, millions of people died under communist dictators because of the policies and the famines and the shortages. Like, there's really no denying this unless you're just so deep in an echo chamber.
That's right. And especially for me, right? Someone whose family did escape the Soviet Union. And, I don't know. I really don't understand. It's usually Gen Z right now, at least, who are seeing communism as this trendy thing to identify as. And it seems like they've never opened up a book or spoken to anyone who has had experience with this, or, their family fled a country under the regime. So, yeah, I'm not sure what he's talking about. Again, with bringing up segregation, it's like I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, what do you think of that when you see these people? I mean, this guy makes so many videos simping for
Oh, does he?
communism. Yeah, he does. But
Okay.
so, being from the Soviet Union and knowing a lot about that, he says, like, basically, there's nothing to see here. This wasn't actually bad. You're just brainwashed.
Okay. Well, I think the same kinds of people go on TikTok literally admitting that we should have propaganda, like they're pro-communist propaganda. That's the way that they think they're going to bring about communism, right? And for some reason, they think they're the only ones that could bring that utopia, right? No one else has been able to do it. There's always been famines, people dying, people being sent to gulags, but they can do it.
It will work
Why?
this time.
This time it'll work because they're so special. I don't know.
Yeah, I here's my thing. I would just love to start a program where we use tax money and we just buy all these people a one-way ticket to the
Hmm.
country of their choice, the communist country of their choice, and we will pay for you. The
Yeah.
US taxpayer will fund your trip. The only condition is that you have to promise to never come back, and then we take your citizenship and we
Hmm.
give it to a new immigrant who is fleeing a country like that and
Right.
loves America and wants to come here. That's what I say.
That's right. I think that's a great idea. And it's so funny how it always seems that everybody wants to come here, right? And then these people that were born here, usually, they like to complain, but they never leave. Nor do they give us a country that they're planning on moving to, if they could, right? If that's the argument that they just don't have the resources to move. They don't even tell us. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and it's interesting because, the economic debate that we have in Western nations is like not between unadulterated capitalism or communism, right? It's like different forms of market regulation, welfare state, blah, blah, blah. But there's very few serious people who, outside of TikTok, who actually would advocate for a communism, right? They might
Hmm.
want like government healthcare, takeover of healthcare. They might want more
Sure.
taxes, but even the really far left people in like US politics aren't literal communists in
Hmm.
most cases. And so I wonder, who do these people even point to for their examples, right? Because there are no successful communist countries. Even the socialist countries, the Denmarks, the Scandinavian nations, really aren't very socialist. They have freer market based economies than the US by many measures. They just have higher taxes on everybody, not just the rich. And so I'm like, there's only a couple of countries that have true socialism and communism and in the world, and they're all in collapse.
Right.
I don't know what they would point to as a positive example of their ideas.
Right. And I have seen some kind of glamorize the Soviet Union, which is very interesting. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, give us a country, right? Give us a place you want to go to where this works. I haven't heard anyone do that. Give us an example. But I have seen people with commie merch, with Lenin posters in their room. And I mean, that's interesting to say the least, but that's what I've seen. I've seen people brainwashed, completely ignore the reality of what happened, but I have not seen people give an example.
I've also seen the Che Guevara merch, and the same people have a rainbow flag in their bio, and
Oh, okay.
they don't seem to know that he literally killed gay people.
Right, yeah. No, they just ignore that part. Yeah, he was an
Yeah.
ally to them.
All right, let's check out this second half of our friend here's video.
Superpower, the British Empire. So let me get this straight. Your concerns about communism, which are based largely on fictional information about specifically the Soviet Union 1917 to 1989, are that there were prisons, people starved, and people died. Is that not concerning? You know, as concerning as it is, it's still not quite as concerning to me as the 100 million people that die under capitalism every 5 years. Because their basic needs are not being met, because they are poor, and it is not profitable to save them. Specifically, the roughly 10 million people that die every year under capitalism because they are poor and they don't have food. And of those 10 million people, 5 million are children. Or the for-profit prison industrial complex that we have here in the United States, in which we have 4% of the world's population and yet 25% of the world's prison population. That is outrageous.
So I will give him the point there at the end, actually. I do agree with that. I do think we have too many people in prison for crimes that don't really have a victim. And I don't think that the U.S. should be leading the world in prisoners per capita. But other than that, though, didn't make a lot of sense to me. The math wasn't mathing.
The math wasn't mathing. I'm not sure where he got that number. What did he say? 10 million people annually?
Die every 5 years from capitalism.
Did he say starvation too?
I think
he mentioned
starvation.
starvation. Yeah. Interesting. Historically too, in the Soviet Union, because we were talking about prison, right? If you said something the government didn't like, you were sent to the gulag. So yes, the system isn't perfect here, but taking a look historically how that was set up, that wasn't all too great either. And then again, with the numbers he gave us, I'm not sure where he's getting that. Like, I don't know.
I think they just blame what they do when they come up with these numbers typically. I don't know about that specific one. They just blame all shortages in the world, regardless of any country's economic system, what stage of development they're in, on capitalism. And then they just add up how many people died of thirst or starvation, and they just say, all that's capitalism. Which, of course, if capitalism is defined as free market exchange and private property, that doesn't really make a lot of sense because those systems aren't in place throughout the world. And what's really interesting is that between 1980 and current day, we've seen a massive expansion of capitalism and free trade across the globe, and it's coincided with huge decreases in global absolute poverty, a huge increase in the global standard of living. Obviously, there's still people who are poor and who can't eat and who die from shortages, but it's getting better, not worse. Yet they act like we're in this capitalist dystopia where the reason people are dying in the world is just because of how capitalist we all are or something.
Right. It truly does not make sense. Of course, what you were saying, how it's benefiting the poor at the end of the day, capitalism, because of course you have the upward mobility, the chance to grow, you have the incentives, which you didn't necessarily have under communism. And so, yeah, to blame everything for capitalism, I'm not sure where he's getting the numbers again. Everything is because of capitalism. I could relate to that when I was on the left. I would say that a lot for literally anything, along with my friend.
It's just kind of like
home,
trendy.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh,
it's
fuck
trending.
Capitalism, slay.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Right. No, we'd come home from school and then university at the very beginning, and we would blame having to, get a degree and trying to get work. It's all because of capitalism. Like, if we had more free time, in reality, we would probably just be lazy and sit at home, and that wouldn't make us happy at the end of the day. But it's all because of capitalism that we have to do things, right? That we have to work and be productive members of society. So yeah, I'm used to this. Everything is because of capitalism. I've heard this many times.
I saw a TikTok recently that tried to blame situationships on capitalism.
No. No way. I'd love to hear the explanation for that one because, yeah.
Well, it's like a 10-minute long video and it makes very little sense, but it, of course, got hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok because this stuff, I don't know, it percolates on there and people eat it up. They love it. And I worry about people who get their news and information exclusively from TikTok
From
because
TikTok.
it's such a crazy little bubble and echo chamber, but it is good for entertainment value.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Okay, so he said his wife said that it was all exaggerated, right? So I believe that was his second wife, Natalia, who claimed or suggested rather that he might have exaggerated certain details about it for dramatic effect. And I just wonder whose word are we going to take? His second wife, Natalia, or Solzhenitsyn, who was a former prisoner in the Gulag, who also did so much research and talked to other survivors. So that's another poor point that he's trying to make there.
And even if some of the details aren't quite right or some of it was exaggerated, like it's still, we have many other sources confirming
Right.
what this was like and that it was really terrible. Like that's not much of an argument. The same thing goes for the Black Book of Communism. There are some things in there that aren't 100% accurate, but the bulk of the book is accurate, and it documents millions and millions of people who died directly or indirectly because of the policies of communist regimes. It's like, just you're nitpicking here or there around the margins, but like there's still that huge problem for you, dude.
Right.
Like I don't know. It just, to call it all fiction because of marginal disputes about things around the edges is just absurd. All right, guys. Well, this has been fun. Misha, thanks so much for coming on the channel and doing this with me. I'll put a link to your channel in the description so people can check out your content as well. And with that, guys, I'll see you all in the next video.